I don't know, does it look like my screen is on? Hey Isaac, is my screen on?
Yes.
Okay, does it look like it's recording? Is there like a red flashing? I think it is.
Some friends. So welcome to the Fairfield County Infirmary. It was built in 1828, and then the area you guys had walked into, that was the original structure. This was built in 1848, and then the front bump out section was built in 1868. It was the county poor farm from 1828 until 1982. At that point in time, it switched over hands to the county health department. It had Big Brother, Big Sister, WIC, Children's Services, any county agency you can think of. They were housed inside of this building from 1985 until 2013. From 2013 to 2017, it sat empty. Habitat for Humanity acquired it then and tried to do a haunted house out of it, tried to do these flashlight tours out of it, and they were unsuccessful. They sold the property to Mr. Adam Kimmel, who you guys saw outside in February of 2020. And we've had it ever since, and we've been doing these flashlight tours since last year.
Very cool.
Yeah. We actually are getting ready to start our first public ghost hunts on October 2nd. They're $65 to do those. Historical wise, we are standing on the women's side. The side down there where the ramp is at, which we'll walk down there, was the men's side. There was a list of 10 rules that you had to follow every day. If you did not follow those rules, they would stick you into the jail cells that were on your sides of the wards. No intoxicating liquors of any kind. You could not cuss. If you were able to work, you had to work. Men and women could not talk with each other. Men and women could not go on each other's wards unless you were a staff member, of course. If you could not follow those rules, you were put in here after a 24-hour period. If you could not follow those rules from inside of the jail cell, you were taken to the dungeon up on the 4th floor. Now, I realize dungeon usually means basement. Now, up here, they put you upstairs because that was usually
the hottest and the
hottest in the
coldest.
Summertime and the coldest in the wintertime.
Yep.
Paranormal wise, shadow figures are really big here. Footsteps, disembodied voices. We've had a couple people who are tour guides be mimicked. So my voice has been heard throughout the building. Adam, who owns the building, his voice has been heard throughout the building when none of us have been here. And I think I just saw a shadow figure down the end of the hall. That does not surprise me. On this hall in particular, right here where the two-way mirrors are at for Children's Services when they did their visits and stuff, a cop came out of here after doing an investigation last summer, and it was him and another cop, and their female friends that were with them were down the hillside. They came walking out of this room and walked into a full body apparition. At the time, they didn't realize it was a full body apparition. At the time, they thought somebody had broken into the building. So they tried to square up, and as they squared up, it walked down the hallway and vanished. The peak of this place, there were 92 people that stayed here. Now that's on paper record. There probably was a lot more that wasn't on paper. Especially considering when we go upstairs, you will hear about how we had transients while coming through town. We'll walk down here.
Is that when it would have been called the Poorhouse, or?
It was known as the Poor Farm because of you could be put in here for a multitude of different reasons. Physical ailments, mental ailments, bad investments, your family just didn't want you anymore. So you pretty much were put in here for any kind of reason. There's actually a 15-year-old girl who was put in here by her husband because she had a miscarriage. And she ended up staying here from the time she was 15 until she died when she was 75.
Seems a bit harsh for a life sentence.
Right? Now, this door that's right here that you have your flashlight on, we believe is the men's side jail cell because it has the same barn-style door as the women's side does. Now, it sucks because it doesn't have the door on it still like the women's side does. We also haven't been able to get into it because when we replaced the roof last year, there had been damage from the roof. So we're still working on trying to get into that room and 2 rooms that are down at the end of the hall from roof damage. Like I said, this was the men's side. Trying to make sure I don't miss something. We had a guy by the name of Dolph Griggs that we found newspaper articles from, and EMS was called out here because they found him with a 2 to 2.5 inch slit in his throat. People still aren't sure if it was suicide or if it was a murder. We haven't been able to find out because the papers did not say what it was. The original acreage of the county home was 140 acres. There were 68 rooms, 7 bathrooms, 4 living rooms, 9 large hallways, 17 chimneys, and then when we go upstairs, you'll see a lookout that was up there.
Another 2-way mirror here.
Yes. And it goes into that room that we can't get into right now.
And a lot of these ceilings are in remarkably nice shape.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you see these old tin ceilings and they're pretty much done.
So the health department, when they came in the 1980s, they put in a brand new fire suppressant system. They painted over the tin ceilings, which you'll be able to see some of the actual tin ceilings when we go down to like the 2nd and 1st floor. But I just think it's crazy that you would paint over some remarkable ceilings.
A lot of things get ruined in the name of safety.
Right. The stairwells, you'll notice, they have walls surrounding them. That wasn't how they were when the Poor Farm was actually open. It was actually all open style. That was something else the health department had to do in the 1980s. They had to enclose everything to make it safer. Let me make sure I'm not missing something. I'm not. So we will go ahead and head on up to the 4th floor, which probably is still the hottest right now. When you guys walk up these steps, also watch your head because we are going towards the roof. until 1885. This was also known as the Children's Home. In 1885, the Children's Orphanage for the county was built out on Route 22 from where the old Big Bear used to be. It's now known as the Community Action Building. So this was where they would house the children who were orphaned. They were housed in this little room. After that, we believe that some of the people who were the most mentally unstable were also housed in here after the kids had been taken to the new orphanage building. The wallpaper is the original 1800s wallpaper, which I think is crazy that you put wallpaper on cement. But,
At least they had some ventilation up here.
yeah, those were opened in the summer times, and I think they remained closed in the winter time because they used to have an old wood-burning stove over in that right-hand corner down there. There was actually a fire in the 1920s that had happened from that wood-burning stove up here. We also believe that not only were some of the most mentally unstable people kept in there after the children, we believe some of them were also kept in this room right here. Because when you get through this little chicken coop door, we call it, you will see that it has ways to bolt it to where people can't get it. Watch your head when you guys walk up.
Okay.
So this is what they would do. They would close the door on them, shut it, and then lock it. And this is what would be a way for them to check in on them.
Yep. Again, all the monkeys still there. Let's move on to the next one.
Right? This is known as the lookout. It has a full view around the entire property.
Okay, that's that little wooden structure on the.
Yep.
Yeah.
The original farm, like I said, was 140 acres. The entire farm land was across the street where Ohio University Lancaster is at, along with Forest Rose Elementary School. But it didn't span just right there and out. It went down to where the Victorian style house is over here on the hill, all the way down to Fisher Catholic High School. So it was a very, very big piece of land. This was the dungeon that we're currently standing in. The chain is just one of the chains we brought up here, but the hooks that are in the walls are the original hooks that were here during the time frame of holding people up here. People were held up here for an indefinite amount of time. That is literally what they said in one of the newspaper articles. So you could be up here for 24 hours after they take you out of the jail cell, or you could be up here for months at a time. Before the health department closed this in, this is where a stairwell is at. People that lived down on the third, second, and first floors could hear the people that were up here chained screaming all the way downstairs. So imagine being a child until your orphanage gets done, living just right down from people who have various mental health issues that are screaming because they can't understand why they're being locked up here. Footsteps happen up here, shadow play happens up here. Pretty much those things are stuff that happens throughout the entire building. We'll go over here to the Bums Alley, as we have seen paperwork call it. Anybody who was just traveling through Lancaster could stay up here, but they had to earn their keep to stay up here. So they had to work or do something. So after working for a full day, they ended up having to stay another night, and they kind of just got caught in here. They would separate these into 5 different partitions, and they would have up to 5 people inside of each partition. I was up here in December doing some work because we have some low-bearing pipes that are in the parts where you see these doors that are padlocked. We had some low-bearing pipes that are in the house, putting some heaters on them so that way they wouldn't freeze this winter. And I was standing right here at our little lock box trying to get the key out, and I heard footsteps run up on me, probably from where you're at, all the way up onto me. And I ended up turning around and yelling and saying, "I'm trying to fix the fucking building, leave me alone." And it stopped. But we've heard footsteps come up these stairs when standing here. We've heard disembodied voices, whispers. That's something that you'll hear a lot within this building. You hear the whispers, like conversation is being held, but you don't know what kind of conversation it is. So.
You notice the dungeon didn't have the ventilation, did it?
Nope, just that one window.
Yep.
And that window couldn't be opened at that time.
That wouldn't have been fun.
Yeah. Right now there's a little bit of ventilation just because we have a couple windows that are busted up there because we've had birds keep flying into them, so we're in the middle of putting plexiglass in them. We will go out through the front bump out section up here and we'll talk about some of the rooms out here in the front bump out while we're going down to the first floor.
There's a little Fairfield Memorial back there.
Yep, I believe that was Dustin Garrison. He's a paranormal investigator out of Texas. He was here back in April filming his documentary. What makes me really mad is that this is all the original steps, the original wood, and when the health department came in here, they cut it all off. Like, it used to go all the way around.
Yep.
We'll go into this room right here and we'll stop and talk about these front bump outs because this room has some toys that we have dedicated to the children of the building. So these front bump out sections were mostly used as day rooms for the residents, along with areas for the staff to be able to get away, because the staff would have their own day room as well. There's 3 different rooms on this level right here in this front bump out section. 2 of them are adjoining rooms. Oh, yeah, that's the creepy baby. Everybody dislikes that baby.
Somebody liked it at some point.
Right? So when we go down the steps, these rooms are mirrored down on the 2nd floor.
That was good.
I still can't get over how well my camera is on my phone. I got really good pictures off this one. When the health department was here, this was pretty much area for staff to be at. There was a private restroom. You had where the files were kept for some of the rooms as well. We actually came in here, and when we came in here, we found files from the Department of Education because they were also inside of this building as well. And they were from the like 1970s. Late 1970s, early 1980s.
So that'd be the time to get in, is when you first get into one of these places, be able to go through all that history.
Oh yeah. One little tidbit about me is, as a kid, this is where I got my shots for school.
Nice. You've actually got personal history with it.
Yep. Go into this room so you can also see some of our lovely toys we have in this room as well. Because our initial idea was to have just one room for the kids, but eventually we had so many toys that we decided to make two. This is for the little girls, and then upstairs for the little boys, since technically men and women weren't allowed to intermingle with each other. That nun doll that you just took a picture of is actually from Madison Seminary up in Madison, Ohio. One of the tour guides there didn't like it and told Adam to bring it down here.
It is pretty damn creepy.
I wouldn't imagine either.
Like I said, a lot of the stuff we get is donated. I actually donated that antique high chair that's right there that came with those Raggedy Ann dolls that are inside of the chair as well. But yeah, everything's pretty much been donated. Anything you see inside the rooms have been donated. There's only been a few things that have actually been left in the building. Like the documents that we found, a couple other things, but other than that, it's all just been antiquing and donated.
Some really old glasses that were left here.
Yep. Christmas time, I came in here and I hung those stockings that you see sitting on the fire thing. I hung those stockings and played Christmas music, and you could feel the energy difference inside this building. Like they all got excited, or at least like the children got excited. So it was really cool to like feel the energy difference inside of the building. We're gonna walk across here. Because these two rooms have some paranormal activity that has happened to our staff that actually work here. So, like I said, Habitat for Humanity tried to do a haunted house. This room, the room that's adjoining to me, they were the room where staff members would keep their stuff along with get ready. This was the costume area. There was a guy who came in. He had to get like all dressed up as like a swamp thing, pretty much. Like he had like a bunch of stuff that he had to wear.
Too small for a costume.
Right. So he was getting dressed about where you're standing right now, and he heard a noise. So he looked out and noticed that there was a woman standing inside of the closet. And like she peeked out at him, he looked at him, and then went back into the closet. So he finished putting on what he was putting on. He came over here and was like, what the heck? Well, you can walk into the closet, which you've already done. There's no way to go across into this other room or to go even into this other hallway right here. So we think that he came into encounter with one of our female spirits, who we think, from doing a couple investigations, I think it's Jane Householder. I'll tell her story when we get over to the second floor here a little bit later. This room, Dylan, one of our tour guides that we have now, he was helping with Habitat for Humanity, him and his wife. And Dylan was standing in this room and he heard a female voice go, hey. So he walked around this entire area because they had this door closed so that nobody who was doing the haunted house could come back here into this area. He did a whole area search right here, couldn't find anybody. A few months ago, his wife, we were doing tours, and I came down the steps and was hearing her talking, and I was like, what are you doing? And she told me that she saw a man's face inside of that window right there. We're 2 stories up, so unless that man is on a ladder, which you would have heard because there's a lot of Virginia creeper coming up the side of the building, we don't know what it was. Like I said, these front bump out areas, they were mostly used for the staff to be able to have a place to relax and go, along with an area for the women to be able to have a relaxing place to go as well. We'll head down the steps and go to the first floor. up to the 4th floor.
Okay, so
right
that's where
here.
they did all the cutting.
And the covering. We're gonna walk into the funeral parlor. We have 4 pianos that are actually residing down here. The door is the original door. And then we're gonna come in here and we'll go across the way after we sit in here for a little bit.
And that's literally what it is, a little sitting room.
Yep. So we are sitting in the funeral parlor. During the 1800s, this building was the only building that had a working morgue and funeral parlor. The doctor for the county was also the doctor for the building, and he actually had her office inside of this building. So for funerals, not only of the people who lived in the building, but also for the county, they would come in through the front door, they would come in here, pay their respects to the family, go up to the casket, pay their respects to the person who had passed, and then go back out the door and go out to the front door. Because the only people who actually sat in these rooms at that time were the family. Yeah, very immediate.
Is this a player piano?
Yep. We've actually had people hear that piano go off without it being plugged in. Now the casket was from the haunted house. I don't know where they got it, but it looks very, very real.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I don't know.
I would say that doesn't just look real. I think that actually is real.
Yeah, because I don't think you can
Probably
ding
just
it.
an old casket.
I don't think you can ding it up that
No,
much.
it's all
and
stainless.
Make it that rusty to,
No, I think that is a real deal.
so I think it was used.
I think this is 100% a used casket.
I don't know whose it was. Like I said, the Habitat for Humanity had it from the haunted house. But yeah, it was very, very, very real. All these pictures are just pictures that were donated. We don't believe any of them were actual residents who lived here. Some of them, if you look at it, you can tell that they were printed off of pictures from the internet.
Yeah.
Especially like this one right here.
Yep, it is pixelated.
We're gonna go over here to the superintendent's office area. Or what's set up as the superintendent's office. I believe it was actually the doctor's office area. For a place for him to go while he was in between patients. Like I said, 4 pianos. The other one is out in the other main hallway.
Old radio.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite pieces of,
Let's see, put that in your pocket and hook it up to your earphones.
right?
And that's a small one.
Yeah.
I've seen
That
a much,
time?
yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen much bigger ones.
We're normally like that size.
Yep. I actually, because I'm getting ready to have a ghost box made for me, and mine is that cathedral style one, and it's literally, if you look at that one right there, it's about half the size of that one. About as wide as it, and about half the size of it. So it's going to be extremely hard to carry around.
Are you getting one of the converted amp ghost boxes?
Yes.
Or are you getting a
Jeff Fent, who's one of our tour guides here, he's also a tour guide at Madison as well. He makes hacked radio boxes with the AM, FM radios where you can sit and talk with the spirits. And they're some of the best boxes I think I've seen out there, besides like the ones that you see on the paranormal TV shows and stuff. Which those take a lot of time to make. It takes Jeff a while to make them. So the room you guys are entering into is the doctor's office. Like I was saying when we were sitting in the funeral parlor, the doctor was the doctor not just for this building, but also for the entire county. Before the health department came in here, imagine that stuff not being right there on the wall. There's actually a doorway where the sink is at, which I'll take you to the other side and you guys can see. There's actually a doorway right where the sink is at, and that is where the waiting room used to be. They used to come in through that doorway, come in here, see the doctor, and then go about their day. The reason why we make a stop inside of this room is because there was a doctor by the name of Dr. Gullaby. In 1885, or 1880, the state had made legislation stating that if your family did not pick you up from these poor farms, after a certain amount of time, you could end up being used as legal dissecting material. Instead of them putting you in a potter field, they'd send you off to a research hospital.
Nice.
It was harder to get dead bodies in the medieval times.
Right? So in 1885, Dr. Gullaby, who was our resident doctor at the time, decided, oh, I'm going to make a quick buck and do that. He tried to take 2 bodies out of here. The first one was the name of James Hanna. James Hanna died on October 25th of 1885 due to consumption. I actually found his death records at the local library. He tried to take him out of here, and the superintendent stopped him and said, his family hasn't been notified, you need to leave him here. Fast forward 6 days later to October 31st of 1885, Henry Abel also died of consumption. A lot of the death records that I've seen so far have been consumption or some type of other illness. Usually consumption was some kind of stomach disease. Also too much drinking as well. That was cool. So in 1885, he tried to take Henry Abel's body. He succeeded in taking Henry Abel's body. He jammed his body into an Arbuckle coffee box. Took it to the local train station. The body started to stink. People notified the police. The police took him and the body into custody. And the mayor at the time, whose name was Mayor Drinkle, said it's okay, he did not do anything wrong, let him go. Because state legislation said you could take people's bodies from here.
Mayor Drinkle.
Right? I thought that was kind of funny, but that's what his name was, Drinkle.
After a death from consumption, Mayor Drinkle.
Paranormal activity wise, sitting in here, you will see shadow play coming from in front of this door. Cabal toys have gone off because Cabal toys have now become a very reliable source in the paranormal field. You literally can just set the toy down, go away from it, and the only way that the toy will go off is if you touch it. And so if the toy starts going off, that's how you know you're not by yourself. They become a very, very, very reliable source in the field. All of those bottles that are sitting up there, they were made by the haunted house, and some of them are actual things that were used during that time frame.
Yeah, but you can also see the internet on them.
Right, right. So we just kind of kept them there because, like I said, even though you can see the internet on them, those were things that were actually used during that time frame, so it makes it have more of that feel towards the building. We'll walk down here where the waiting room was at, and then we'll go over into the morgue.
What was it? Trans-Allegheny where they had all the actual medicine bottles?
I think so.
I think so. I think that's where they have it. So like I said, this was the original doorway before they walled it up when the health department came in. This is where the people would come in. They come in from that door right there, they'd sit in this waiting room, and then the doctor would call them into his office. When the health department came in here though, this became a break room area. So that's why it's kind of set up like a cafeteria or a dining room as well.
They don't make that doctor's office much less efficient.
Yeah. We believe that there is we don't know exactly which room it is yet, but we believe there was a kitchen somewhere down this way. We don't usually take people down that way because the floor is a little uneven and we try to keep people from having a possible injury.
Yep.
But there's a dumbbell waiter down there. That's why we believe somewhere down in that area is where the kitchen was that would make all of the food for the entire building. We will walk over here to, looks like we need to come back down here and spray again.
Maybe a little bit of mold.
Yeah, we sprayed all of this about a year and a half ago. It's starting to all come back. I'll have to let Kendall know. Probably from the moisture this summer, because it got pretty hot down here. Even though it feels really cool down here right now, it got pretty hot. We are gonna walk into the morgue. Watch your step. This was the morgue for the building. Back there is where they would do the autopsies. They also not only housed bodies here and cleaned the bodies here, they also housed and cleaned the food as well. You can open that. You just pull really hard. So Ohio winters being extremely harsh as they are, in the wintertime they would house the bodies down here with the food. We're not entirely, we believe the bodies were actually housed in there while the food was housed over here during the winter times. But who knows exactly what happened during those times. Right here behind me is where they would clean the bodies and clean the food. They ended up having a formaldehyde poisoning happen in the city due to the natural spring that runs through the building. The natural spring ran down into the creek that's behind the campus. And so that was the water source for the town. So it was a water source for this building, it was a water source for the entire town, and they ended up having a formaldehyde poisoning happen because of it. So they ended up laying pipes to divert the water to a different area instead of it diverting into the town water. So you want pictures of the basins on those so that way you can get pictures of those too.
Which way are we going? Oh.
I was moving so you could get pictures of the basins because I didn't know if you wanted pictures of the basins or not. Here in a few minutes we'll go over to the boiler room side. Well, we've investigated down here. We've heard footsteps out in the hallway. One of the guys that I know from Paranormal Quest, they were here, and they had this door open. They had this door open, and one of them was standing right here, and they were talking about a new piece of equipment that they were going to use, and they started hearing walking out in the hallway. So they slammed this shut real quick and ran out into the hallway. And at the time, they had my laser grid because they were borrowing some of my equipment. They had my laser grid out in the hallway. And they couldn't figure out why the laser grid wasn't going off, so they weren't sure if it was on the opposite side or what. But we'll walk down towards the boiler room area. the very first investigations that me and a couple of the tour guides did here, I had a clear EVP response. Because my recorder was sitting right over here on this like nurse's station. And Dylan, he asked, do you want to talk? And you hear a clear no. So it was really cool to hear that. Also about this nurse's station. In the 1970s, the local drugstore Riches would come here and they would deliver meds. So the boy came through the front door. He stopped here, saw that there was nobody at the station, walked all the way up to the 3rd floor. When he got up to the 3rd floor, he saw an elderly lady walking with a walker. He tried talking to her, she ignored him, so he came back down here to this nurse's station and told her what was going on. And she said, we haven't used that floor in 5 years. Because at the end of the building being the poor farm, the only floor that was used for residents was that 2nd floor, that main entry floor that you guys came in on. So the 3rd floor was not used for residents anymore. I still hate having to see that wall right there. Because the staircase would just be so open.
Yeah, some of the renovations that health and safety did seem a bit excessive.
Yeah. We'll go down here to the boiler room area, and then we'll walk back up here because I want to talk about that restroom that's right there. So I was doing a tour. It was literally 2 other people that were on the tour. I walked through that threshold. I was telling them about how you should look right here in this little cubby because the original limestone from the 1828 building is right there in the little cubby. And as I'm telling them this and I'm walking in backwards, you hear a loud bang. Tried to figure out if it was the water fountain. I tried to figure out like if it was something right here. Could not figure out for the life of me what it was. And at the time, this door was wide open. And there's a sliding door that's right here. I didn't figure this out until a couple weeks later. But at some point in time, we believed that this sliding door was open and somebody like banged it across, or at least took it a little bit and like banged it real hard. But we're not sure. Still cannot explain it.
Wheels add a lot to things that go bump in the night.
This was the boiler room section. This was how they did all of their heat, all of their cremations, I believe. Because if you look down here, you can see where the stack used to go for the fire. Look how big it is and everything. I'll let you guys see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rooms down here, there's like a couple restrooms down here, like a closet. We believe this was some type of gathering room because the town of Lancaster used to do big bands, ice cream socials, Christmases for the kids, all kinds of stuff for the residents. In a 1927 news article, though, that we found from the Lancaster Eagle Gazette, it stated that they were doing stuff for the poor, pathetic figures who had no more connection to the outside world. I still can't get over that statement, like.
I feel like that makes the things they did less kind.
Right. Because behind, there was a superintendent who I haven't mentioned him yet. His name was Hummel. He was very disliked by the county, but the county was who hired him. The town, the county, they're the ones that hired the superintendents. He used to beat some of the residents. At that time, they were called inmates. He used to beat them out in the field, out where the university's at now. And so if you are seeing this driving by, you're like, holy shit. Just imagine what it was like inside these walls at that time. He could have just been beating them. We know from EVPs that people were raped. So who really knows like what's happened inside these walls that weren't documented? Superintendent Hummel was actually attacked by an inmate out in the field. And in that newspaper article, he had talked to residents after getting beat up by this inmate. And the residents had said that he had been talking for days that he was bloodthirsty, he wanted to kill somebody. And he got pretty close to doing it to Hummel. If Hummel wouldn't have realized that there was a tool in the guy's back pocket, then Hummel probably would have ended up dying right there.
Couldn't imagine why an inmate would
Want to beat the crap out of somebody,
Yeah.
right?
beat up someone that was beating all of the other inmates,
Yep.
all but indiscriminately.
So the building's out back, since you guys spent some time out back. The big white one is the carpentry shop. The one in the middle is the meat house. The one next to that was the spring house. And then this building that's right here outside of this window, there is the root cellar down underneath of the building that's to the right of the big like shed that we have. I don't know if you guys can see it from
I think we spotted it when we were out there.
But yeah, there's a shed, and then right next to that would have been the root cellar. We'll walk back over to the grand staircase, and I will talk to you about the bathroom that's over there. Stop playing tricks. Shut over here. I'm right on time. Usually I'm not right on time. Usually I sit and talk. So this bathroom, a lot of people dislike. It could also be the feeling from black mold, because some people have known black mold to, or just regular mold, to have that tipsy, curvy feeling to it inside of a room for a little bit. But at the time when the health department was here, this was the room where the people would come in here and they would pee in the cups, and then the health department would come in here and they would collect it. So the lady came in to collect the specimen, and if you notice, that door has no way of locking on the inside or the out. She got stuck in here for 15 minutes. We don't know exactly what it was or anything, but a lot of staff members don't like to come into this bathroom. They feel like they're gonna get stuck, they feel like it's bad energy. But like I said, this door, if you look at it on both sides, there's no way to lock, there's no way to hold it from the outside, like there's nothing. That cricket likes to make friends. We'll go over here to the men's side. We have a Harry Potter room. If any of you watched Harry Potter, we have a room under the stairs. I feel that with this being directly close to the underground railroad, that we might have had these hideaway spots as something for that.
That could very well be.
But we will never know those kind of records because those were things that weren't recorded.
Wouldn't want to write down that
Yeah.
part of an underground railroad.
When the health department came in here, It was known as the Clarence E. Miller Building. So when you walk around and you see the evacuation signs and it says C. Miller Building, that's what it was known as when the health department was in here.
We're not close to that northern line of freedom, so.
We are, and actually there are 4 houses here in Lancaster and 3 houses out in Rushville that are all part of the Underground Railroad. So what we're trying to do, and with these flashlight tours it helps, is we're trying to bring the building back to the way it was during that time. So like a lot of that antique furniture you see that are set up in rooms to make it look like one of those rooms, that's what we're trying to accomplish, along with renovating it while doing that. It'd be awesome if we could actually fully renovate it, but in 2011, when the health department was in here, they had somebody come in and tell them how much it was going to cost to renovate it, and it was going to cost $4 million at that time to renovate it. Now, with it having sat for empty for 4 years and all that other stuff on top of that, it's going to be a lot harder to do. But like I said, flashlight tours, the public ghost hunts that we're going to get ready to do here in October, that money goes straight back into the building. We are all volunteer based. None of us get any money for doing this stuff. We just get the enjoyment of being inside of one of these historical buildings.
Yeah, I did a summer at Ohio State Reformatory doing the volunteer work.
Yeah. Old style mowers. So in 2018, right before the realtors looking at the property because they were wanting to tear this building down and build studio apartments for the college.
Significant investment.
Right. So they were gonna tear all of this down and they were gonna build on top of it.
The Athens Lunatic Asylum.
Yep, the Ridges. I actually have something for you from the Ridges that's here. But they took ground penetrating radar out in the areas where it wasn't known if it was a cemetery or not, because we do have the cemetery that's out back. But they took ground penetrating radar through the areas outside, and they found something interesting. When they were painting, they weren't painting on people's bodies laying down, they were painting on people's heads standing straight up. So to be able to have more room, they buried people standing straight up.
Cheaper.
Yeah, it was cheaper. They had a lot of disease that happens through here, especially in the early 1900s to about the 1930s, because you have to think of smallpox,
Excuse me.
all kinds of stuff that was coming through here at that point in time. But you mentioned the Ridges. One, I don't know how I feel about the fact that they are renovating the Ridges and making them into studios for art students, because that's what they're doing currently.
I managed to get into it a couple years ago. Yeah, one of them solo tours.
Right.
Pulled the door and it opened, so I went in and ran through.
This is one of our rooms that's fully set up, except for that there's no mattress in the bed yet, but this is a complete setup room of what we want to do. But when we go out into this hallway, I want to show you an article of furniture. I guess it wasn't an article. The piece of furniture that we have is actually from the Ridges. If it's still down in this hallway, what do they do with it? It was right there. Somebody moved it in here. You are not supposed to be touching that. This is a wheelchair that is from the Ridges. Jeff Fent, the guy I was talking about who makes the ghost boxes, he actually was the owner of it up until a couple years ago. He sold it to somebody, and then he was able to buy it back from them just within the last couple months. And he ended up donating it to the building. Probably my favorite piece of furniture that we have, because it's something that's close to home. I don't know why people moved it into here, but hey, is that a flashlight?
I don't think so.
No, it's a lipstick.
Makes less sense than a flashlight.
But all of this furniture that's in here currently, that's right here in this hallway, is furniture we're getting ready to move into different rooms. And it has also been donated by people who volunteer.
There's one straight freezers.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen many safe freezers, so straight freezers before.
So, we are exactly at 9 o'clock on the dot. I think. About 2 minutes shy. That is the inside of the building. You are welcome to venture around and take some night photos if you want to take some night photos. The cemetery is just literally.
Yeah, we were
up
parked
the hill.
over by it.
So you guys are more than welcome to go out to the cemetery as well. But that is the end of your guys' tour.
We appreciate you doing it.
Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful night, and please enjoy our beautiful grounds.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.